You'd think in the last few weeks I might have tried that new Marvel hero shooter, Rivals. Development looks pretty good and I don't see any paid DLC characters. That statement might also actually age better than wet cardboard with the overall positive response they've gotten from the player base. The game is 30 gigabytes though, and I don't really want to wait 10 hours, so I've just been playing. Retro FPS with an art style including color compression and dithering with a gradually unlocked arsenal doesn't sound that original, but that's a simplification of a game that I think has a lot more depth than some classics. I mean, it gets immediate points in my book for not dousing itself in brown and beige to try to be more retro. It generally just reeks of 80s action hero. It's like you're playing a mix between Leon Kennedy and a bus. Everything just has such a mechanically satisfying sound to it. I mean, just look at this. This game's movement feels like a tightened up version of old game jank fitted into a moveset. It's got slides, jump kicks, it's even got a roll which rotates your x-axis. The best way I think I could describe the movement as a whole would probably be dynamic. You can do laps of areas at ridiculous speeds, but only in large areas where you've got the run-up and a lack of sharp corners. The base movement is a perfect speed for slower, more tactical, clear the building level design, because you have that slower, more precise movement as a default. But when the level layouts open up to you, it's easy to share your feelings with a cross-map axe kill. Easy might not be the right word, but the skill floor is certainly more accessible. Other games with complex physics-based movement, like any game made in the Source engine plus a couple of others, generally have a surface level that's immediately accessible, with a decently steep learning curve. All of CULTIC's movement mechanics feel more immediately apparent. It also made it a lot of fun to replay because my mindset had completely changed as to where was and wasn't accessible to me. I like this section where you ride a minecart down to a brawl with a bunch of guys, then you have to fight your way up through. Or you could just do this. If you watched another CULTIC review before making it here, the chances are it probably had the word crunchy in the title. I didn't even have to go looking for these examples, they were just right next to each other. I do kinda see where they're coming from though. If I had to put it on an arbitrary MS Paint scale, it would probably be about here. I'm using the third one, by the way. Fodder enemies don't just eat bullets, but neither do you. I mean, at least most of the time. You get rewarded for hitting double headshots and other lukewarm clips on your enemies, which kind of perfectly complements the chaining together style of gameplay. You also get the first 4 weapons, like, immediately, which have some of the best audio design I think I've ever heard. All the sounds and music have a slightly bit-crushed roughness to them, especially like the bit where it goes... Its music makes you feel like you're constantly in a fight scene from Die Hard. I mainly just appreciate the subversion to the usual arena shooter music choices. None of CULTIC's music is that fast. It's intense, but it's kinda different. I still like the soundtracks from the Doom franchise, and Ultra Kill and Quake, but I like this too. CULTIC's music isn't really angry or intense like any of those. It feels heroic, because as a John Doe with improvised illegal weaponry, you are completely justified in turning human people into unrecognizable viscera. I don't know if I made that clear, but you're the good guy. Characterization, personality, I guess? There's a constant subtle humor across so much of this game. Being able to write down random letters on lore entries, Resident Evil 4, flushable toilets. Jaso's just Can't stop throwing knee slappers everywhere. It feels like the ground you walk on is being held up with satire media commentary, with the seams only sometimes showing through. Fits pretty neatly though with how weirdly ridiculous some of the fights are. Maybe it takes some inspiration from Serious Sam or Duke Nukem. I wouldn't go ahead and assume that as fact though. I've also managed to sink a couple of hours into the endless mode as well, which is probably because it's good. I like how it presses you to make better use of your arsenal because of the focus on resource management, which you mostly don't really see in the campaign because of how much they give you. I don't personally find the difficulty ramp up too slow, and I think the shop system between waves adds a little variation between each run. Oh, and also Christmas mode. The pacing of the main campaign is similarly casual, but still challenging enough on the normal difficulty. Encounters are tough, but you never feel choked out due to the level design giving you breathers between rooms. Resources change from being tight to plentiful from level to level, so the difficulty generally changes as you progress to be in line with what each area gives you. But if you're willing to go exploring a little bit, then you could probably beat the game with just the shotgun. To put it more concisely, the main story so far has some difficulty, but I still feel like I could eat a 3-course meal while playing through it, and I probably wouldn't struggle. The biggest roadblock I found was loading a save point with low health and the game freezing for about 10 seconds. Is it gonna crash? No? Okay. I can't really critique this though, because I've only played the story on normal, and there's plenty of settings to increase the challenge, if that's what you want. The save system also lets you load areas with loadouts from different saves, which is something I haven't seen before. Most of CULTIC seems to feel kinda like that. It takes so much inspiration from all the right corners of old shooters, but it only seems to improve on these concepts and develop them to the point that it's unrecognizably its own game. Each area feels well-paced. It introduces a concept and then gives you ways to play around it. There's this one area where it appears pretty sparse and easy to clear, but then suddenly you're getting destroyed by snipers on the other side of the map. It constantly subverts expectations. I can think of a dozen times that sort of thing happens to keep the game fresh throughout the campaign. I would critique the fact that the enemies feel pretty slow after a while in comparison to the player, but I can't fully agree that that's a bad thing, and even if it was, there's already a slider to change that in the custom difficulty settings.
Secretum loci verba. SCP. Secretum loci verba. Okay, seriously, who the fuck?
The community for this game isn't massive, but it seems like it's growing pretty steadily. The speedrunning scene also looks to be alive because of about 2 to 3 guys, and the any percent runs look about how you'd imagine. The tools for speedrunning are already pretty good with stuff like an inbuilt clock and loadout selection. I tried some runs myself, but sadly I'm not one of those kids that scientists tried to make understand the 4th dimension with climbing frames, and I've never solved a Rubik's Cube. I don't really have many negative points. I mean, maybe it would be cool to see some enemies who can keep up with the player's movement, regardless of difficulty, but I already said that point like a paragraph ago. For the price, I'd solidly recommend it with the amount of future content that's going to be added. Out of a 1 to 10, I'd say like a, wait a second, this toilet doesn't work. Broken game. Unplayable. Play a real game like Paunch.